So Norm, what was your first memory of Camp Mac?
I'm not sure exactly what was my first, but among the early memories, I remember playing on the sawdust floor of Quinter Miller. This would have been about 1958. I can remember Vesper Hill when there were wooden benches and a dirt area for your feet. My parents told me that we came to family camp when I would have been 2 or 3, and that would have been 1957.
Mm-hmm.
So 60, 70 years, whatever that, what would that be? 60, 40, 20, 60 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you come here many years as a camper growing up?
Growing up, I was here every summer, starting at, in those days, I believe our first chance was the summer after 2nd grade or 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember that first summer. I remember Lowell Cable was my counselor. I remember which cabin we were in right over here. It was a good summer, but I had the opportunity, and my parents made sure I had the chance to come to camp every summer up through high school, through youth camp. That was good.
Were you ever on staff here?
Only for short times, weeks at a time, never
Okay.
for a summer staff. Our daughter was for several years, and a number of friends, and I only volunteered for up to 3 weeks one summer.
Mm-hmm.
And counseling.
Yeah.
Turns out, and while I was still in high school, this was in the days before CITs, I was a counselor of 5 beginner campers. They would have been just out of 5th grade. 2 of whom I'm sure nowadays we would call hyperactive. And fortunately, the woman that was my co-counselor was excellent, and saved me. Nelda Snyder.
Recently you've counseled Splash and helped out with Splash Camp. Talk about
And also samplers.
samplers.
Right, but Splash was a number of years in a row.
Yeah.
And that's been really good. It was a privilege to be able to work with the Splash campers and with the other counselors and staff. And of course I love sailing and I love the water, and so that fit.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to have my son-in-law as one of the other male counselors one time, so that was a good experience. And my son another time, so
Wonderful.
that was good. Yeah.
So you were leader of family camp for a fair number of years.
Well, we were at family camp a number of years in a row, and my wife and I were I think they call them deans. I think it was in 2000. In fact, I think we had some kind of an Olympics in 2000 for family camp. Our kids grew up coming to family camp every year. And in fact, our son-in-law was here before my daughter married him, and another son-in-law was here before that daughter married him. Yeah, Camp Mac's a family camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the family, now you're bringing a new generation to camp.
Right.
How has it been now as a grandparent, bringing grandkids to grand camp?
Well, that's been really fun to watch them exploring and learning about places here. And then to hear our eldest, as she goes to camp on her own, talk about her experiences. And it was really, really neat to see one of the other grandkids at grand camp who had been in summer camp with our granddaughter. So they were best friends through it all.
Growing up together.
Right.
So with all your years here at Camp Mac, how have you really felt connected to God through this place?
Well, this has been a way, I get emotional just thinking about it. It's been a way to sense God's presence in a very real way. And I treasure that. There have been more experiences than I can count where I have sensed God's presence in a special way. It doesn't have to be here at camp, but it has been. I mean, that's been one of those experiences, one of those places that's been so important to me. Vespers, morning watches, times in the cabins with the kids. Yeah. Boating, Vespers on the water in the evening, Vespers time over at the lookout tower. Yeah, it's been good.
So with all the activities that someone can do at Camp Mac, what is something that you have done that you don't think a lot of people have done that they really should take the time to do here at camp?
Oh, now that's interesting. I don't know. I love sailing, and in fact, part of the reason I like sailing is because Joe Driver in 1969 or 70 brought some sailboats to Camp Mac for the kids at youth camp to use. And I had dabbled with sailing before that, and so I ended up teaching others how to sail. So any chance I get to take kids out, or anyone, kids or adults, on sailboats here on Lake Waggy, I love to do. I don't know if that's something many people have not done, but I love to take people sailing and to sense the power in the wind that is just so incredible. Even on a day like today where it's almost calm, there's enough wind that if you harness just a small bit of that, you can move a 6-ton boat. Not on Lake Waggy, it would be a 3/4 ton boat. But you can move a 3/4 ton boat across Lake Waggy using just a tiny portion of the power in the wind that's behind me right now. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Campouts, I remember we used to do campouts where we'd hike. I remember doing that one time with a junior high group, I think. Travel camp for me was a very, very important time. That, if in conjunction with your question about sensing God's presence, that was a turning point. Yeah.
A big part of your recent role here at Camp Mac has been serving on the camp board.
Right.
What inspires someone to join a board for a place like this?
A belief in what we're doing here. Camp Mac is a sanctuary, and it's providing a place for people to sense God's presence in their lives and to build community with each other, to grow. I want that for everybody.
Thinking about the future of Camp Mac, what inspires you for tomorrow? What do you hope the future of Camp Mac looks like, and how do you hope that others can make that happen?
Yeah. That's a really good question, because it's a balance. We want camp to be a place where we're out in nature and we're not tied to our cell phones and our technology, and yet we need to use technology, like this summer where we had to close because of the COVID-19, and so we want to use technology, but we want kids and adults out in nature. God can speak to us whether we're sitting in a high-tech computer lab or whether we're sitting in a gazebo by the lake. So it's important that I not get hung up on the old ways, and yet I think we need some of the old ways to remind us to listen to God. I'm old enough, I remember when Becker Lodge was still the really old Becker with the screen doors that banged and the wooden upstairs that had hornets' nests, and it was not comfortable at all. It was not air conditioned. It was hot in the summer and freezing in the winter. And when it was remodeled to have the motel-like upstairs, I thought, we're really losing a lot. But I'm not sure it was losing a lot for people who didn't have that history, it was a place for people to experience God.
Hmm.
So for those who remember Becker, there were the long wooden benches on the cement floor in the dining hall down in the basement.
Mhm.
It was noisy, it was cold, it was drafty, it was hot in the summer. But that's the camp I remember as a kid. Well, that's not the camp my kids remember,
Mhm.
and my grandkids don't remember the newer Becker.
Hmm.
And that's okay. Camp changes, and our experience with God can still occur no matter what the setting is. What do I dream about for the future? I dream that we will have people who are committed to listening to God and sharing that experience, that we all could grow together. And from my own personal standpoint, I dream that we'll still have a lake that's not polluted.
Hmm.
We'll still have open areas where kids can sit under a tree and look at the ants crawling there. I would be disappointed if the entire camp was cemented over, which I don't think it will be. But it's easy for us to look, for example, at Jacob's Well and to say, oh, that's not Jacob's Well.
Hmm.
Because I remember when it was a stone ring with a fountain that was ever flowing.
Hmm.
And you could smash your face down into the water and freeze your nose and drink the pure, cold water.
Hmm.
So when the water pressure dropped and it couldn't be maintained,
Mhm.
and we cemented over and put in a water cooler, which used to be gray and hummed from the electrical,
Mhm.
that just didn't seem right. Now that's been taken out and we've got another one that doesn't hum, but it's also not as cold.
Mhm.
And yet God is still here, and people can sense God, and people can learn about Jacob
Mhm.
at Jacob's Well.
Wonderful. A word commonly associated with Camp Mac is the word sanctuary. If you had to pick a different word to associate with Camp Mac, what would that be?
That's tough because I was part of the board when we talked about sanctuary. God's peace, experiencing God, those are 2 words each. Sanctuary says it so well, it's hard to, how about shalom? No. I'll try just a little longer and then I'll give up. Because a sanctuary is a place where a person can find refuge. Maybe refuge.
Hmm.
Refuge might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, refuge would be close.
Hmm.
A way of finding a solace, a place of peace with God.
Well, thank you, Norm, so much for sharing. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the work you do on the board and
It's my pleasure.
being a part of camp. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And